Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 156. Now, those of you who are good at maths, I don't know if it's math or maths. Is it maths?
It's
math. Math. Those of you who are good at math will divide 156 by 3. Math, M-A-F. Okay. We'll divide 156 by 3 and realize that makes 52, which means that today is our third anniversary or third birthday of the podcast. I've obviously been away for the last 2 weeks on holiday, and I know that there were 2 episodes done in my absence. The one with Gary and then the one with Pete and Paul. But the 3 of us are just here today to discuss life, training, the podcast for the last 3 years, things that have been going on, things we're thinking about, and future directions of things that we're maybe doing with ourselves and our training, and that sort of thing. So before we move further, Mr. Peter Lant, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How was your holiday?
Oh, it was lovely, thank you. It's very it's very nice. I actually haven't listened to the last 2 episodes yet, as when we're recording them, they haven't been released. So
I was going to say there's a reason for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I will be listening to the last 2 episodes that you have done. But no, it was lovely. Thanks. Yeah, total social media and tech blackout for me. No emails, no texts, no WhatsApps, no social media, no phones. So it was beautiful for about 15 days. Yeah, very nice.
What I like about it is you all of that, but you still think about, like you were still, before we started recording, you were saying, right, I've thought about some topics we could talk about and blah, blah, and all that while you were on holiday. So it's one of those things people are like, no, just switch off completely. And it's like, no, because you live this stuff. So you're thinking about it all the time. Even if you're on holiday, you're thinking about it, aren't you? Because it's what you do.
Yeah, so it's like I said, I was reading the Dan John Easy Strength Omnibook, and I had a notebook and pen and just things that happened on holiday and things I was doing. Just I made notes on, like I said to you, things, possible topics for discussion on here, or could be a video, or could be a blog or whatever. I haven't written a blog for bloody ages, actually. I don't know if
since about like 1996.
People still write blogs. I haven't written a blog for ages, but yeah, things like that, like writing a blog or whatever. But just topics that come up that kind of make you think, oh, this is good for me. This might be helpful for other people. It might be interesting. So like you say, you never fully switch off because and I trained every day while I was away. I trained 13 days on the spin while I was away in the gym there, which was nice in the morning. Kept some elements of routine up, which was important. So it was lovely. Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. Because somebody said that to me once when I was taking a kettlebell away with us in the back of the car, and they saw it and they were like, oh, what are you doing that for? Just have some time off. And I was like, this is what I do. I do it because I enjoy it, not because not necessarily because I have to. I do it because I enjoy it. So cool. I'm gonna, if I can take it on holiday with us, I'm going to use it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I said to Paul McElroy, I said, I'm away for 2 weeks. I'll do what I can training wise. I'm not sure what equipment will be there, but the gym was actually pretty good. I didn't actually follow the kind of programming from him for 2 weeks. But I did, I trained every day, had a good session every day, a bit more machine stuff. There was some cable stuff there, dumbbells, they did have a barbell, some body weight stuff, and just had a really good, just had good, fun kind of 45 minutes to an hour each morning, which set me up for the day, which was spot on. Yeah, it was really good.
I love it. Yeah, I've already told him, because I go away as we record this. I go away tomorrow, and I told him last week, and we were getting towards a point in my program, so I was like, right, I'm going to need to go to 32 kilograms on the pistols. It's 34 kilograms on the presses, so I can take a 2 kilo plate to stick on the bottom, and it's 26 kilos on the racked pistol squats, so I can take a 24 and stick a 2 kilo plate on that. So I need to take a 32, a 24, and a 2 kilo plate. And I just let him know that. So he's like, okay. And he just moved my program to that. Like, hey. So I get to do that while I'm away. It's great.
Excellent. Paul, how are you doing, mate?
Not bad. Yeah, okay. I need to plan a holiday or something. I haven't got one planned yet.
You can't go on holiday now, mate. You've got a cat.
I know. It's just attacking my feet at the moment. And then it's just leapt like a crazy manic creature into the corner there. It's trying to stick its head in between the cushions. So, yeah, we eventually got the cat. Well, we didn't have a choice, really. My wife just turned up with it. I think I got a text message in the middle of the last... and then I started talking about, we're thinking about getting a cat. And then I get a text message saying, I'm coming in with a cat, which we've got. So, yeah.
Has this been discussed over the last 2 weeks that I've not been on? Yeah, it has. It's been the ongoing saga of Paul getting a cat.
Yes, Paul getting a cat. Yes, exactly.
And
I always
how
criticize
how much Paul loves cats.
I'm quite soft. It's quite a. I'll show it on camera. There you go. I'll manhandle it. It's calmed down a bit. Oh, there we go. There we go. It's a cute little thing. We did rescue it, and it had about 150 fleas, didn't you? Yes. That was fun with tweezers. But now it's flealess, which is good. After we de-fleed the entire house. My bed sits.
Just shaved him.
I shaved it. Yeah, I just got my razor out. It was easier. It was a free Siamese cat. That's how you do it in budget. It's the little cat.
Yeah.
So we are 3 years today, guys. Who would have thought that when we first started? In that, I remember the very first episode. I think I was in Norfolk at the time, on holiday.
Where was Paul?
Oh yes, that's a good point. I was about to say, I know where I was.
Where was Paul? Well, on the very first podcast.
On the very first episode.
I can't remember. Where was Paul?
I was in a graveyard.
He was.
Were you? Was that? I remember you doing one from a graveyard, but that was the first episode, was it?
Yeah. I was outside, looking cool in my sunglasses in a graveyard.
And it was
There's
probably
a graveyard
nice
next
sunny,
to my gym. So,
and it was probably a nice sunny day back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember that back then.
Good old days.
Yes. So, guys,
during the coronavirus. Well, we just opened up, hadn't we?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I was away, so I was on in like a farm thing in Norfolk, so it must have been opened up to a degree. But yeah, it was. Well,
gyms opened on the 28th of July, if I remember rightly. I mean, other things might have opened earlier, but I think gyms and health clubs and things like that opened on the 28th of July. So it'd only been really open a week post that first lockdown.
That first one.
The first one, yeah.
First one. Then followed by, was it number 2?
Number 2 was that November, end of November,
and number 3.
When
was there a part 3?
That was after Christmas.
Yeah, there was a part 3. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just
flashbacks, all personal.
Three old men sitting around reminiscing about the past.
Lockdown nostalgia. The first one was the best one, definitely.
Yeah. So, Pete, you were telling us just a minute ago about a comment you'd had regarding your training. I don't know if it was by someone in person or someone online, but what was that about?
Oh, it was one of my guys who I was doing a session with on Tuesday night, because I get him to do a certain amount of swings, and some sessions he's doing like 25 swings, and he goes, 25 swings. He goes, it's so boring. I'm like, it takes like 45 seconds. You're bored.
25 swings.
Yeah. I'm like, and he goes, it's boring though, isn't it? And I'm like, well, what do you want? We'll have like a frank conversation about it. But he asked me, he said, like, do you ever think of making your own training? And I think he said my own training, or I think he just said training in general. Do you ever think of making it, like, adding in something different and making it more exciting and all that? And I basically said, like, based on my own, I was like, well, no, because what I'm doing now is getting me toward, I know it's getting me towards my goal, because it is. And if it wasn't, we would change it. But there's no point in adding anything in, because it'll just, right now, interestingly, right now I'm at a point in my program where everything's quite heavy. So my central nervous systems I'm towards the comfort zone of that. If you know anything about Paul's talked about his comfort zone training, I'm towards the comfort zone on that, or closer to it. And so my central nervous system can't really handle adding in any extra exercises. I've got assisted one-arm, one-leg push-ups in, which I'm not really doing, because I haven't got the energy to do them after I've done all the other stuff, which is only another couple of exercises. So I'm like, well, if I add anything more in, it's just going to take away from that. So no, because it is getting me towards a goal. So we're talking about Dan John, keep the goal. The goal is to keep the goal the goal.
But we talk about things being interesting. I mean, doing a couple of star jumps and some mountain climbers and then going into a plank and then doing some swings and then hanging from a bar, that's not as interesting as doing a one-leg squat with 32 kilos. It's not as exciting as probably being able to press, a heavy weight multiple times. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that people watch on TikTok and YouTube is the feats of strength. And the only way you can get to a feat of strength is doing all the boring stuff that you don't see for the years of practice. But, no one's got millions of views watching someone go from a renegade row into a sit up, into a swing, into a jump. I mean, it's not to say it doesn't have some value, but it's not quite as interesting to watch as like a one leg squat or something, something that's been worked towards for many years.
I think what you touched on there, though, Paul, is that you said no one sees what goes on behind the scenes to get to that point. You know what I mean?
No,
so that's
true,
the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. It's that you see the result of the years and years of training, but you don't see the years and years of training. So you think that you can just jump in and do the result or get the result very quickly, without all the boring stuff that leads up to the result,
Andrew Reid was talking about that, and he's in one of his things because he's 50 now, and he's done Ironman and climb mountains, and he cycles a lot and all of this. But he was saying the Ironman that he did, people see the end result. They see like, oh, you did an Ironman. Well, like bloody hell. And he's like, yeah, he trained for 12 months for that. He was actually going to train for 24 months, but I think he got some sponsorship and stuff. So he had to do it within within 12 months for some reason. And he said cycling around in Australia in 35-degree heat for 6 hours on your own, because nobody wants to go with you, isn't exciting and isn't fun. But that's what you need to do to be able to go and do the Ironman. And then
they see, like you say, that I don't know if it's the Instagram story or the TikTok or the Facebook post of you running over the Ironman line, arms up, all the camera flashes going, getting your medal. They see the result, don't they? And they want the result without what led up to the result.
Yeah. And the same with like everyone who Finbar's training, like what's his name? Gareth Malloy, breaking records. It seems in every, I don't know, this is what it seems, this is what it looks like anyway on his Instagram and stuff like that. And from like we met him last year, didn't we? But he seems to just keep breaking records and winning competitions. And it's like, it's amazing. I mean, he's a big bloke, but he's just super strong. But then you see he's training, and he's just there day after day after day, grinding away. And just adding a little bit here and there, pushing his comfort zone. He's doing, I mean, like the way Finn, I think the way Finn programs for his guys is similar to Paul, because Finn learned a lot from Paul anyway. So it's like, it is just the boring stuff. But then you see him on a platform break a world record and get gold. It's like, there you go. That's it.
It's funny. The last session I did before I went away, before I went on holiday, it included 10 sets of 10 pull-ups again, which I'd done once before in my life, probably a year ago, and we built back up to it, and I did the 10 sets of 10, and then I haven't done a pull-up for 2 weeks. I did a few sets of chin-ups, but just 5s or 6s in the gym that I was using, because I didn't like the pull-up bar was a bit too low, so I had to bend my knees, and it just wasn't ideal. So I hadn't done any pull-ups. And the first session back, so I just reverted back to the session I was meant to do, before going on holiday. And it was pull-ups, but it was 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I got up on the bar to do the first set, and I got to 10. I couldn't do 12. And so I just did 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I messaged Paul and said, it's probably a combination. I haven't done a pull-up for 2 weeks. And also I felt heavy on the bar. I don't think I've put much weight on, but I felt I may be a kilo or 2 kilos heavier, but I just felt heavy, and I hadn't done the pull-up. So it's kind of amazing how quick to go from 10 sets of 10 to then not being able to get 12 on the first set. Because I think if I'd got the 12, then I would have got the 11, then the 10, then the 9, then the X. You knock one off every time.
Yeah.
Psychologically, it's easier, isn't it, as well? But yeah, it was good. And one thing that really rang through for me was I did this yesterday, which was my first day back at work. And I did my session, which was also deadlifts and squats and bench presses. And it was the thing that I haven't listened to it yet, because I'm kind of catching up. I've just listened to the Phil Maffetone episode, and I'm currently listening to Alex Salkin's episode. But it made me think of Becca Roberts, where she said she hadn't missed a training session in 3 years or 6 years or something like that. She just and I thought, so that's why I do think back on the guests that we've had on, and I know obviously like Fabio Zonin as well was very similar, who was like, you just don't miss a training session. I thought there's no reason I didn't really feel like training yesterday, first day back from holiday, all the rest of it busy, but I just thought we've got to get it done, and you just do it. And it's boring. It can be boring, but it's nice when it's done,
There's a thing. So that when I was having a conversation with this guy, I also said, you can be doing lots and lots of different things, but if you're training towards something, or even if you're just training to be healthier and be a bit stronger and what have you, you get to a point, and not even get to a point, you are on the road to mastery. Whether you realize it or whether you want it or not, you are, because that's the starting point towards it, and then it's being consistent on that road, and then that's where you get the beginner's gains, and then you hit plateaus, and then you've got to, Dan John was talking about from the George Leonard book, Mastery to Learn to Love the Plateau, and all of that. And anyone who thinks that they're not on that you are. But if you only do it for a month and then go off and do something else, you're now not on the road to that. You're on the road to mastery on something else. And if you just keep doing that, you never get anywhere. That's the way I've started thinking of it. And there's a few people who I have as online clients who are trainers, similar to us, who when Paul started training us, were like, I've never done it this, what's the word? This kind of rigidly before. I've been on training programs and that, and then I'm like, all right, that's that one done. I've done it for like 6 weeks. Now I'll do another one. Now I'll do another one. And like getting like slightly better at lots of things. But then it was like, no, I'm going for this, and just training like with a real conviction to that program and doing what I'm told by a trainer, by a coach. And the outcome of that has been amazing. So that is now realizing that actually to get even close to mastery, which is, mastery, does it exist? It's an ongoing journey, but even if you're 60% there, it's better than starting and be getting 10% and then starting something else and getting 10% in my head anyway, if that's what you want. And so you just want to have a good time, right? So that's fine. But then if you get frustrated with that because you're not getting anywhere, that's when to kind of make that realization for me.
I was training a client, Yana, earlier today, and I've started doing, we follow something quite rigid, but it kind of followed from reading more of the Dan stuff over the last 2 weeks. And she said to me kind of midway through the session, she's getting a lot stronger. She's only like 55 kilos or something, not a big person. But everything she does with good technique, and she's getting stronger. And she sort of said to me, she said, I think you maybe need to push me harder. I can work harder. I can do more on some of these things. And I kind of said, and it's kind of the question, the things we've said before, it'll get harder. Don't worry. What I mean? It's like she's getting stronger and the weights are going up and they're moving well. And then she actually said, oh, but you read so much stuff, don't you? You see so much stuff about, no pain, no gain, and go hard or go home, and all this kind of, and I feel that we're kind of, and I had a team meeting today with the guys, with the trainers, and we do a program called Pure Strength, which is like a 7-week training sort of cycle. And I'm having really gone back and really deep dived into the Easy Strength Omnibook. I think I'm going to try and look at freshening that up and changing that a little bit, and really bringing in more of the Easy Strength principles to it. Because I still have this issue with many of the clients wanting to lift more than they than they can safely with good technique and wanting to feel like they're working harder. And, you know, this kind of the whole Phil Maffetone thing that we spoke about, the easy strength that we spoke about, this feeling that training has to be hard all the time, you know, and unless you feel like you've absolutely, you know, you're spent and you've wiped yourself out, you've not had a good training session. And it's so interesting because I see obviously you training, Pete, you know, I see you training, Paul. I mean, I know what I do myself. I see a lot of the guys. I see Finbar training. I see, you know, Lauren training. I see Gareth Malloy training. Then they never look like they're struggling with what they're doing. Everything's moving smoothly, you know. So we are fighting this kind of trend of intensity all the time, aren't we? I think.
Did I tell you? Did I talk about this last week? I can't remember.
I wasn't there. I don't know.
Pete,
I don't know because I don't know.
Did I read out? I was asking Dennis Vazilev. Obviously, we had him on the podcast, and if you don't know who Dennis is, go back and listen to that podcast. He's the world champion in kettlebell sport, and he's been coaching me for kettlebell sport. And I was asking him about. Well, basically, we've been using the 18 kilo bells for the long cycle, and I was keeping about 8 to 10 reps per minute pace, and we did 7-minute set, felt pretty good. And I said, look, you know, I want to try and keep that pace for as long as possible, you know, and build up to being able to do that with the 24s, you know, an 8 to 10 pace, you know. And I basically asked him, you know, do you reckon it's possible in the next 12 months? And he said, well, we're almost done with the 18 kilos. Hopefully we'll be able to manage to get ready for the 10 minutes long cycle with the 20 kilos in 5 weeks. And then 3 to 4 weeks to get ready for 7 minutes with 22. So he was talking about at least like 4 or 5 months before we get onto the 24s. And then I said, well, do you think it's possible in the next 12 months to get dominant with them? You know, he basically said it will take most likely several training cycles will be needed to complete the 10-minute set. You know, we should be looking, you know, he said, in order to get done with a 10-minute set done in 12 months, we should start working with the 24 kilos much earlier. So the idea is you quite easily, particularly with certain sports, think, yeah, I'll just use the heavy one. I mean, like in my head, I'm like, right, okay, I'll give myself 12 months. You know, if everything goes according to plan, it'll be this nice linear path where we just go up to the next bell. And I've done that one. I'll go up to the next bell. No, I've done that one. I'll go now. Before I know it, I'll be on 240s, you know. But, you know, he thinks, you know, it's almost going to be more than 12 months to get really confident just with the 24s, which is the amateur level bells. I've got to, you know, I'm happy with that because I don't want to go faster than I need to. And he knows what he's doing, you know.
There's one of the things with that about the comfort zone stuff is it sounds similar of, you can get there and you can do it and you can do a 10-minute set with it, but it's ruin you, rather than getting there and be able to do a 10-minute set and owning that set and being like, right, do you know what? I could do that again. And I could, you know, rather than doing it and going, right, that smashed the crap out of me. Now I've got to go all the way back down and start again.
Well, there's stories of a lot of those guys, the world champion kettlebell sport athletes using 232s. And they have different grades of like Master of Sport International, and they have to be able to complete a certain number of reps with the weight. They can do that. They can hit the basic standard multiple times a day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Dennis did there was a snatch called Rogue did a snatch test for the CrossFit athletes where they had to snatch 24 kilos and try and get as many reps done in 10 minutes. And I think Dennis did 272 in his first go, and he wasn't happy with himself. And then, like something like 3 hours later, he did 276 reps with the 24 in 10 minutes, which is insane. Not only to do it the first time, but to do it a couple of hours later, again, given the kind of impact on your hands and your cardiovascular system. So, you know, I mean, admittedly, he's pushing himself in both sets, but the ability to recover, the ability to make that comfortable, to express that level of strength multiple times. I mean, when I do it, I spend a couple of days getting over it, you know.
You've just mentioned something there, and something James said earlier as well about the lady you were training, Yana, I think.
Yeah.
About like, you know, I could do more, I could push myself, and you're like, don't worry, we'll get there. It'll get heavy, it'll get harder, just not right now. And then what Paul said about recovery, and for me, the whole what you can recover from is massive. So like I've been building up to doing 10 sets of 10 presses with a 32 kilo bell, right? Which is, for me, is just ridiculous. You know, so it's been going like 10 sets of 2, 10 sets of 3, 10 sets of 4, and then building up. I got to 10 sets of 8 and 9, and it started to kind of fall apart a bit. So I said to Paul, look, next week, it's my last week before I go away on holiday. I can get the 10 sets of 10. So maybe it's like do 8 on Monday and then 10 on Friday. Just have the day off in between, the Wednesday off. Because I think I can get it, but I think my central nervous system by Friday, I'm just fried.
Yeah.
He got me to do it on Monday. He sent the program through, and there you go. And I was like, oh, that's a bit different, isn't it? So Monday I did 10 sets of 10, and I meant to do pistols and pull-ups as well, but I didn't do them because I was like 10 sets of 10 is a lot. And I did it, and it felt great, but I was knackered after it. And then Tuesday I thought I'll do pistols and pull-ups, and there was just a little tweak in my hip. And I was doing pull-ups and something behind my shoulder blade tweaked, and I was like, I'm not. So I didn't finish everything. And I sent him a message, just said, look, it didn't happen today. And then Wednesday, I did pull-ups, presses, and pistols, and everything was fine. So even when people are like, when you talk about recovery, you know, with your central nervous system, you can feel fine. And I felt fine on Tuesday morning, but when I tried to do the pistols and pull-ups and stuff, I still hadn't recovered from doing the presses on Monday, even though it was a different exercise. So it took an extra like 24 hours, and I was still tired on Wednesday, but just less tired. But this is where people struggle, I think, and don't realize that, you know, they can smash themselves and then feel okay in the afternoon. But like Dennis, if you said, right, go and do exactly what you did this morning, do it again now, after about, I don't know, the first couple of minutes or whatever, if they did a half an hour workout, say after the first couple of minutes, they'll be knackered and won't be able to work out why. They'll be like, I felt exactly the same when I started. And it's like, yeah, but you're not. So I've learned a lot about that as well.
I mean, the thing about world champions is that it's repeatable.
Yeah.
It's not a fluke. You know, I think when Dennis broke the world record long cycle for his weight category, 101 reps with 232s in 10 minutes, which is, I don't even know how that's humanly possible. You know, until you swing those bells like that, it's difficult to tell. But he did it. He tried to break it like a week earlier, and then the following week he did it. You know, so he was maxing out only a week earlier. You know, so that just their ability to their heightened level of recovery. I think that's what people don't realize when they see these Navy SEAL training programs or these train like Usain Bolt, train like Mo Farah, whatever. The amount of time that they then go into recovery where they don't have a job other than their discipline, you know, and their families are probably geared up completely around their world. You know, I suspect their wives, their kids just understand that everything is based around that recovery. You know, you have to sleep multiple hours a day, you have to eat certain ways, you can't travel, blah, blah, blah. You have to go to bed at certain times. The average person just doesn't have that luxury.
Have you seen is it the Deepest Breath, that the free diving?
Oh no, I saw it come up on Netflix, and I'm going to watch it. It was the ice diving. Is it the free diving?
It's not ice diving. It's just free diving.
Yeah, but I saw it come up, but I haven't watched it yet. No, it's sort of 40 minutes, isn't it, or something? 45 minutes?
No. This is it's an hour and a half. Like,
oh, is it? Okay.
It's called The Deepest Breath, I think. It's bonkers, but the pause just made me think of it, because it's like, you know, you're as good as what you can recover from, but you get to a certain level where it's repeatable. So these people are doing free diving down to 100 meters and back up on one breath. Obviously there's a lot of pressure and all of that sort of stuff. They don't get the bends because they're not breathing in anything. So, you know, they go down, they get all the pressure, their lungs go to like the size of fists or something like that. It's just all bonkers, and then they come back up. And you see it quite a lot. And I didn't realize this was the thing, but they pass out like 10 meters from the top, and they've got the safety divers there to bring them to the top and give them mouth to mouth. And then they've got to shout to them to breathe, because they forget to breathe because they haven't breathed for like a few minutes while they've been down there. The safety divers can't wear scuba gear because they dive down quite deep as well in case anything happens. So if they need to bring the person back up quickly and they're wearing scuba gear, that wouldn't be able to happen. So they've got to do it on a one breath as well. So they might dive down to like 50 meters only. But the thing is, these people will pass out 10 meters from the top. So then they bring them up, give them mouth to mouth, breathe. They're all purple. Their eyes are like rolled back in their head. And then they come back round, they breathe, everything's okay. And then, and I was like, okay, that's pretty extreme. They'll go and do it again the next day. They might have had a world record attempt and didn't quite get it. So they'll go and do it again the next day, the next morning. They'll be off again.
Wise.
And I'm like, how long does it take to get over that? But they must recover quite quickly because they obviously do it like day after day after day. And they might be in their mid-20s, 30s.
You get comments on your videos about like, oh, that will hurt your back.
Yeah.
But I can't help being one of those people in these scenarios where you're like, you might die.
Well, yeah,
I know you know what you're doing, but...
Yeah. But they probably, in the same way, they've probably expanded their comfort zone over times of going down to 10 meters, then to 20, then to 30, then to 40, then to 50, then to 60. And like you say, probably at the stage now, they can go there. If they're going to 100, so I've not watched the documentary, but if they're going down to 100 meters, probably going down to 70 or 80 is fairly comfortable, and it's just pushing that last bit. It's like if you're doing a 10-minute long cycle set, and you're doing 10 minutes, probably the first 5 or 6, 7, you're kind of okay. And then it's like running a marathon, isn't it? The first 20 miles, it's the last kind of 3 or 4 that really, that really hurt if you've done that. So I suppose you're only really testing yourself at the edges of that kind of, of that zone,
No one's had to give me mouth to mouth. I mean, I may have gone purple and my eyes rolled back, but no one's had to resuscitate me.
But this is the thing I found, honestly, I mean, it's all amazing, but like what you said, Paul, the recovery and world champions can make it repeatable. So we mentioned Gareth Malloy earlier. He looks like, he's breaking records all over the shop by the looks of it. Because it's repeatable. It's just that one extra rep or whatever. But like I say, with this, it's they go back and do it the very next day. It's not even like the next week, it's the very next day. And I'm like, how much training is it to get the body to be able to do that? Like have basically a near-death experience and then go back and do it again tomorrow. It's amazing.
Believe it, just a couple of weeks ago, the day before I went away was the end of Wimbledon, Wimbledon tennis. And
I was going to say tennis as well.
Yeah, you watch that and they can play a 5-set match and be on court for like 4+ hours. And then, they usually have a day off in between, one day off and then back again and play another 5-set match, and it's just incredible.
And they do that 11 months of the year.
Oh, yeah. Then they finish at Wimbledon and then they have a few days off and they fly to the next tournament.
It's not like they're just batting it back and forth to each other. They're properly whacking it as well. It's
technical term.
No, but it's not like there's a little lull in the match where they're just like, oh, we'll just hit it a bit softer.
No.
Everything into it for 4.5 hours or 5 hours.
But I suppose that it comes down to the proximity towards failure. I know I brought up Mike Mensa multiple times over the last month or two, but when he uses the comparison of strength training versus endurance, he talks about the stimulus. So in order to get the highest level of stimulus, he's going to kind of failure. And that's why he talks about just using one set, a warm-up set, and then just going one set, because one set of total failure, and that's why he uses machines, obviously joints aren't as of risk using the machines when you're going to absolute failure, is enough to stimulate the growth. So, it's a bit like putting your hand in a burning fire. You don't need to hold it in there to experience a very high level of stimulus. Whereas if you put your hand in tepid water, you can keep it there for hours. And I suppose once you've built that base, you're essentially working within that tepid water and you could stay in there for ages. It's just some sports tend to be kind of fluctuate between like a Olympic lifting, it's probably closer to that fire. whereas kettlebell sports closer to the tepid water, you know?
So with all of this in mind, why, why is it that most people can understand these concepts, right, that we're talking about here? If you take them to these extremes, most people can understand that. But why, when people start a training program, do they want the goal like immediately? Do you know what I mean? You can understand the concept if it takes a long time to get good at anything.
Because you purchase things now. You know, we're
Yeah.
consumers, aren't we? We can consume and purchase the end product straight away. I mean, I can get an Amazon delivery and get it the next day or even the same day sometimes. So we're so used to it.
But you can't get that with strength, with fitness, with all of that. Even especially if you've neglected it for years, you can't just go and get it back. You can't just go and buy it back, can you?
Well, I mean, we've got a CD that we've got. My wife used to plays it in the car occasionally. It's just Stephen Covey, it's 7 Habits, and he talks about the transfer of thoughts and behaviors over the 20th century. At the beginning of the 20th century, people very much thought about character. What is it to be a man of character? What is it to be an individual of character? What is it to be someone who is brave, who is good, who is kind, who is benevolent, who is intelligent? And so we talk about character as the main goal of the heroes of the day, were people of character. Whereas we slowly started to move towards tips and techniques and hacks. And I expect if you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you go on most of these social media platforms with the 60-second time frame or whatever, you know, the reels, the TikToks, etc. They're so short, and all they do is like, here's this hack, here's the supplement hack, I mean, even stuff that is bigger picture, like the stuff from Daniel Huberman and whatever. It's a 60-second snap of, here's how to bring your kids up, here's how to stimulate fat burning, and so we kind of think about like, what's the tip and the trick that's going to get me where I want to go, and I think that's why that's why people want to rush to get the result, because you know they're not talking about character, they're not talking about the process, because the process is a little bit more difficult to explain in a 60-second. I think
that makes a huge amount of sense in my head, because it's the what tip, what trick do I need to get the thing, rather than who do I need to be to get the thing.
Yeah, because Dan was talking in the Omni book about people want to look like so say, for example, someone says, oh, I want to look like a world-class sprinter, or I want to look like a middleweight boxer, or I want to look like an athlete, or I want to look like, you know, so people want to train to look like they can do something, rather than actually, like you say, become the person who is that. And then the person who is that, they're not training to look like that. They're training to be functional, to be able to do something. Whether he's obviously uses a lot of kind of American football examples and things, but whatever position, is it wide receiver or something in the NFL, you know, they're not training to look a certain way. They're training to be the best American football player they can, which involves a lot of time in the weight room, a lot of training of the American football, you know, dietitians, you know, sports therapists. They're like, or a top Wimbledon tennis player, you know, top professional tennis player. They're training to be a tennis player. What they look like, it's the whole was it the form follows function, you know, and people want to go to I want to look like that without actually being that, you know, and without putting the effort that it takes to be that.
There's an interesting analogy. It's one I've heard recently, and I think this is a good way of expressing where people are struggling, because I think often there's so much fog, you know, you can't see beyond the horizon. There's things just getting in the way of people making right decisions for themselves. So I think when I sit down with people, there is a sense that they want change, but they have no idea exactly what the process of change is. And so there's a great fog in their decision making. And that decision making, for some people, leads them to inaction. And I came across this because I was listening to some stuff on financial education. And as someone said, like, if you remember Back to the Future 2, and there's the almanac, and the almanac was a book that contained about 30 years of sporting events results. And obviously in the future, those sporting events had already happened. And obviously Biff, who was the main kind of bad guy, goes back in time and hands his younger self that almanac. And with that almanac, the younger Biff starts betting and starts to create wealth, and it changes the future. In the future, he's a kind of casino baron. He's changed. He's infinitely wealthy, very powerful, and all off the back of having that information. And so, I like to think that we're somewhat like the almanac. Now, here's the thing: if I was to give you that almanac, right? If I was to give you that now, most people don't invest in the stock market, don't invest in houses, they don't put money in pensions or whatever, because they say, I don't have enough money to do these things. I don't have enough income to start making money. I need money to make money. Those people who are rich already have money, etc. They have family wealth or whatever. However, if I gave you that book and I said, here you go, James, Peter, you can have this almanac, but here's the thing, I'm going to take away all your money. You can't start with any money. Would you take that book? You probably would, wouldn't you? You would say, yeah, I'll take it. Because you're probably
if
sure.
If I had the ability to go back in time.
No. Let's just say I gave you the book that gave you the next 30 years of sporting events.
Oh, okay.
And you got the result.
Okay,
yeah. Would you take it? If I said, look, you can take the almanac or you can have $5,000 now, which one would you take?
Yeah, you take the almanac, yeah.
You take the almanac.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you start with no money. And you can do that because you know you could borrow some money because you're certain of the knowledge. You're certain that if you were to borrow money off a friend or find some money in the street or whatever it is, you'd be able to take that money, go straight in the betting office and bet on a game that you know the outcome. So you're certain of that knowledge. Now, I like to think of what we do is kind of like the almanac in a way. So when someone works with us, we see what the result can be. So when they sit down with us and say, I know that at the moment everything's clouded and you don't know, and you think I've got the wrong body, I'm too old, I'm perimenopausal, I've got an injury, I can't be that fit person. But the thing is, that's because you don't have the knowledge. You don't have the understanding to see the path, to see the possibilities, to see the decision making. And that's why if you're really stuck and you don't know where to turn and you think that you're not going to be optimal health, you're not going to have the optimal health that you really desire, it is not a failing in your body. It doesn't matter how fit you are at the moment. That can change, but you have to have the knowledge. And if you're not going to acquire it yourself, and you can acquire it yourself because we've all acquired it, but if you don't have the time or you don't have the inclination, you can then work with someone who already has it, and then that clears the path to the result. But you've got to understand it's a process. We've got to believe in the knowledge. And I think my job is to give someone the confidence in my knowledge. And then once they're there, then they have to have confidence in themselves to follow it. Because if they don't follow it, I know I can get someone a result. I mean, I can prove it. I've got pictures on behind me in the studio. I've got plenty of kind of anecdotes and whatever. I know I can do the job. So that's, I think, what the biggest challenge for people is. They haven't educated themselves enough in order to get the result that they want. And if they're not willing to educate, then they've got to find someone who is already educated in that area.
Do you think I agree with everything you've just said in terms of the knowledge, but do you think that what most people, and I've had this myself with various things, do you think that what most people lack is not necessarily if we say the knowledge is one part, but do you think people actually have I don't really want to use the term discipline because it sounds, the structure, the control, I suppose discipline, however you know what I'm trying to say, that's the issue for people, the actual following through, the actual turning up, the doing it, the actual
that is the eternal question, isn't it?
The commitment, that's the thing. It's because you can have the perfect program and the perfect way to train someone, and you can give them the perfect way to eat, and you can do everything you can. But we were talking before we started recording, if someone can't get out of bed and get to the gym for 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever it is, they have to turn up. They have to show up, and they have to keep showing up. And
yeah, I see that, but I think it's another excuse.
So it's sometimes, I know, but in some ways it's so they may have faith in you, but they may not have faith in themselves, is what I'm saying.
True. So then my job, again, being the almanac, just to blow me and trumpet, is to find the lowest, is to find the action threshold, isn't it? Is what is the threshold to take that person into action? Because if someone who has got a really bad back or a knee that's in severe pain, whatever, is going to have, or someone who's got years of body dysmorphia or no confidence or whatever, is going to have a different action threshold. So my job is to say, yes, I can always get you to a result. Your pace is going to be different to someone else, but there is always something you can do. My job is to find that place for you to start and then build upon. And you are right. Look, I mean, if they don't want to do it, you can't take a horse to water. And if they don't want to drink, they won't, but say you're the kind of person who wants the result and you are willing to start. And you just don't know where to start because you just feel overwhelmed. And therefore, because everything feels so big, you're just going, no, because it's too much. Then I've just got to find that thing. It's like, okay, here's the win. Your path's going to take you twice as long as someone else, but it's still a path that's going to get you where you want to go. You just, that there is certain things you can't, if I give you the almanac and you choose to throw it in the bin, it's up to you. You can leave it in the cupboard and never look at it,
Or if you choose to wrap it around a copy of Ooh La La, because that's what we do. He's got this. Paul, here's a question for you, Paul. So you get people a transformation. So there's a beginning and an end point. How and anyone who comes in, so we've all got this, right? Anyone who comes in telling themselves a story, you tell them you've got your knowledge and all of that, and you're like, here's what we can do, and they're like, but here's why I'm going to struggle with that. Here's the problem. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a strong person. I'm not a gym type person. I don't lift weights. I don't do this. They'll be telling themselves something. I'm this sort of person, so therefore this is why I can't do it. But when they do sign up, and then you get them the result, or they get themselves the result by following the program and using the knowledge. What do you notice a difference in that story from when they turn up in the beginning to when they've got the result? They then realize that they've been telling themselves that story at the beginning, but now it's like, actually, I've got a different story because I am that person, and I didn't think it was. Do you see that?
The biggest change in any of our transformation programs, particularly like the Amazing 12, is that they take themselves from someone who put barriers up to suddenly realizing that there's someone who shows up, whatever. And I think it's the single biggest thing I repeat over and over again with clients when they do particularly the more focused and intense transformation programs is you are now going to be the kind of person who does what they said they would do. And so you just get good at, I think the biggest thing they learn is the practice of showing up, and I think that's infinitely more powerful than the tips and the tricks and the techniques, because none of those things have any value until that person shows up, and what I've noticed is particularly people who are really successful in the program, they knew if they had an excuse for not doing something, they accepted it and they moved on with it and then tried to rectify it by showing up the next week and putting 100% in. That's the biggest change, I think. People still lose momentum. People still struggle with things, but they realize that actually they can control their own destiny, I think. And I think that's very empowering. They suddenly realize they're not a victim to it. And actually they're choosing to do something or not to do something.
I think
they choose their own density.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think this kind of loops back to, it may have even been a conversation we had before we started, but this self-imposed structure, or we were talking about systems briefly before we started recording, systems or structure, and really the need for that for us as business owners and trainers, but also for clients and anyone wanting to make a change. It's that need, and then that having a system, like you said, Paul, having a system can give you certainty of process and certainty of outcome if followed. So I think that the structure, and whether that be a structure that someone gives you or whether that be a structure that you come up with yourself, there needs to be some element of structure to whatever we're trying to do, doesn't there? It has to be a pattern, it has to be a structure, it has to be a system that you can follow. Otherwise, you're just, like you say, you're just doing a series of random things, hoping that, throwing stuff at the wall, hoping that something sticks.
Yeah, I think it's Dennis Vazilov said. I don't know if he said it in our podcast or another one I heard before we had him on, where he's like, he will just do a training cycle. He doesn't stop it halfway through and amend it. He'll just take it right to the end, and if it works, it works, and if it didn't, then he knows, and he'll make a thing. But he has to see it through.
Yeah, that's what Dan talks about a lot in the book as well. He'll write a program or a book, and someone will immediately approach him with ways to make it better. And he said, "Well, have you done it? Have you done it yet?" like do it, and then assess it once you've done it. But do it. Like you say, show up, see it through to the end, and do it. And then at the end, you can then assess it and review it and amend it if needed. But just
I get that with the A12. I get people say, I can't do the diet. This diet won't work for me because of X, Y, Z. So but give it a go. It's worked with thousands of people. I mean, that's the power of social proof, isn't it? That's one of the reasons, that people make decisions to work with anyone is social proof. I think it's one of the biggest things you can have as a business is that we've done it before. But yeah, there are always outliers, aren't there? There is always someone where something quite won't work, but that's where the conversations happen. You've got to start with a baseline. Before you're playing prog rock, you probably got to learn the blues. You got to work how to build upon something and make a decision. That's why I try and get clients to eat 3 meals a day at first. And because then we say, well, if maybe that will just be enough for you, but we can always tweak things, take away a meal, add a meal, add a pre-workout, add a post-workout. I'm not going to advise you to do more advanced things until we just work out where the land is.
This is where I put something out about this. I'm going to bring the Rubik cube into it. Sorry, but I was speaking to somebody about this at the weekend actually. But the problem is you can Google diets and training programs and what have you, and you get a stupid amount of answers to make you go, oh, that's why I'm so confused. I don't know what it is, right? The Rubik cube, a 3x3 Rubik cube, right? This one. There are 43 quintillion ways that can be jumbled up, right? To put that number in perspective, that's more than there are grains of sand on the earth, right? I think I read somewhere as well, if you take an A4 bit of paper and just lie it flat and lie another one on top of it and another one on top of it, 43 quintillion bits of paper will go to Pluto and back like 6 times or something like that. It's mass. It's just an inconceivable Princess Bride, inconceivable number, right? However, people can do that in like 5 seconds because you chunk it down, right? Any cube from any state can be solved in 20 moves or less. So as soon as you know that information, so you can go onto Google and say, what's the best diet? What's the best training program? What's the best sleeping pattern? What's the best, the right number of steps to do, the right amount of water to drink? As soon as you start asking all those questions, you're putting in extra variables from each one. Each one's got enough. But then the next one, the amount of combinations that can go together, it just goes infinite, right?
Well, if you put me to it's your cube, I swear I will go through all quintillion before I actually get to the solution. And I think that's most people's fitness journey, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's why I said, basically, if you can condense it all down, you're less than 20 moves away from who you want to be. From the body you want, from the mind you want, from whatever it is you're asking, you're less than 20 moves away. And if you can like grasp that concept, then you just pick one and do it, don't you? And then if it doesn't work, you pick another one and do that instead. But you've got to, like James was saying and Dan John had said, you've got to see it through to the end.
That's why I don't do trial
enough time.
That's why I don't do a trial class. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to prove in one class. That I've got a nice personality, or that I could teach kettlebells.
Well,
because I'm going to fail on probably all of those counts.
Yeah,
but I'll say that just give me 28 days. We can do something in 28 days. I'm confident we can see a lot of progress. But in one class, you might like the interior of the gym. You might like the trainer on the day. You might get on with someone in the class, or you know, yes, it's going to give you some more information, but that's not really what we're doing, is it? We're not really just doing classes. We're not just purchasing pay-as-you-go classes, because we're trying to get a result, and that is a number of steps. You know, the process in which Peter uses to establish his starting point with a Rubik's Cube, that's a series of decisions. And really, that's what we're doing, trainers. We're saying, okay, you're buying into a series of decisions. And I think it's the short-termism, you know, it's the short-termism that holds people back. You've got to think, okay, I'm willing to get excited about this. I'm going to put some trust in someone, and I'm just going to go with it and understand that over a little bit of time, I'm going to see the result I want, you know?
Brilliant. I think we'll wrap up there, guys. That's a really, good, deep kind of conversation there for the third anniversary. And it was just good to touch on some big themes as well, and some big things that are, overarching concepts, I suppose, for all things, health, fitness, training, nutrition, lifestyle,
Time travel,
all the time travel, Back to the Future, Biff Tannen, all these things. But no, it was really good to catch up with you guys. So that's 3 years. 3 years in the bank, 3 years in the history books. And I know as I think it's Pat Flynn. Oh, Pat Flynn. I've got to chase Pat Flynn up. That's just reminding me. But Pat Flynn says, doesn't he, like most podcasts finish after 6 or 7 episodes, so 156, pretty good. So
have people listened beyond the 7th episode? Or are we just doing this like into nowhere?
Going out into the ether. Yeah, do me.
I don't know. I mean, we've met the occasional health oddity person. I mean, we don't want to meet them again. I mean, once is enough. We know who our audience is.
Quickly, actually, before we go, I just want to say good luck to Alex from Unique Results. Alex Nicole Bennett's doing her first Strongwoman show on Saturday in Chelmsford, Essex Novices, women's World's Strongest Woman, Essex's Strongest Woman novices on Saturday. So really good. We'll give feedback on that. Pete and I, in a few weeks, obviously, are off to Chard in Somerset.
We're off there tomorrow, mate. Well, in fact, we're off there this very afternoon.
We're off there this afternoon to see how it's
as it goes.
We're going to be there all weekend. We will be wearing bright yellow Health Oddity t-shirts when we're not contractually obliged to be wearing official disabled strongman ones. We'll be there. So if you are in Somerset this weekend, we will see you, which will be great. What they drink down there? Cider, don't they?
Do you know what? When I moved down here, I realised I'd moved to the wrong place, because I used to be there was a club in Newcastle called the Mayfair, which was a rock club.
Yeah,
it's an old ballroom, and it was massive and it was great. And it's been, I say knocked down, like dug out, and it's now a cinema complex and a Tiger or something like that. But I forgot what I was. Why am I talking about this? I forgot what I was.
Cider, Somerset.
Oh, cider. And we used to drink snakebite in there. I was getting all nostalgic about the Mayfair. I used to love it in there. We used to drink snakebite in there, which is obviously cider and lager in the same glass. And it's disgusting, right? But when you're 17, 18 years old, it gets you hammered very, very, very quickly. And it put me off cider for life. And I hate cider. And then I moved down to Bath and Bristol and all that. And they're all like these nice cider places and that. It's like, you can keep it. Thank you very much. So
I actually haven't drank cider for probably at least a decade, but I might have a cider.
No, I also remember from the viz years ago, it was like, you used to have beer goggles. It was always in the Profanosaurus. It was the cider visor, which was beer goggles for the younger drinker.
Dear me. Anyway, we will be back next week, entering our 4th year. Is that correct? Yeah, entering our 4th year. If we've done, entering our 4th year next week. We will have lots of guests lined up. We will have lots of fun, and we will see you then. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe to us on YouTube, and please do give us a follow and all the rest of it on Instagram. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, just go into Facebook on groups, find Health Oddity, and we will let you in, and we will see you next week for episode 157. And we will have a review. No, we won't. I'm doing my Back to the Future, and I was going to say we'll have a review of the Disabled Strongman, but we won't next week. That'll be in about 4 weeks.
Yeah,
you've confused me, Pete. You've confused me. Right. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.